Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, how are
This
you?
good. Thank you for coming over. This is Alka from Global Women Power, and we have been working for women empowerment for about 5+ years. And in this process, we have helped more than 2,000 women find financial independence.
Mhm.
So one of the part of Global Women Power is to meet with inspirational personalities, and in that effort only we started this program called Meet Our Sheroes.
Mhm.
And what we do is we just ask you to share your life story as far as being a woman and being an entrepreneur and touching lives is concerned.
Okay,
So it is over to you. And
okay,
please introduce yourself and tell more about what you had been doing and what you are doing now.
okay. Well, wonderful. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Cheryl Moss, and I am the CEO of Guardian Zone. We
Mhm.
are a security technology software as a service firm. Um, and I started my company back in 2016. We're still a startup, but the journey to get to being an entrepreneur was actually very interesting. My background is I worked for the U.S. Department of Commerce, and I was actually a U.S. diplomat, and so served in 6 different countries around the world in 25 years. And part of my role as a representative of Department of Commerce was to help U.S. companies go into international markets, which were the 6 countries that I lived in. And so I loved my job. I loved what I did. I loved meeting, entrepreneurs in other countries. I loved connecting U.S. companies to other companies in small and medium markets. And so I think it was almost a natural fit because it was 2002. I came back and I was doing, as we call it, a domestic assignment. And I was in Dallas, Texas. And I was working with small and medium-sized companies and startups. And there was a young gentleman who came in our office one day, and um, some of my colleagues were like, he's a startup, he's new, he's not our normal customer. We normally worked with customers, even if they were small companies, more established companies. But I started talking to him and I found him fascinating. And so I started working with him. Um, and I remember in my 2 years of being in that office when he finally hit his $1 million in sales. And I was like, I want to do that. I helped him, use U.S. Department of Commerce resources in our international offices around the world to actually, he sold fabric remnants, believe it or not, and he did it a lot in Africa and some other third world countries, and he actually did very well. And I just remember what impressed me most about him was that his business started as a cell phone and a fax machine. And I was like, how does this, how do we go from that to $1 million in sales? And so I think that's where the seed of wanting to be an entrepreneur was born. But I worked for the government, so I continued on. As I said, I lived in 6 different countries. So I lived in China, Beijing, China. I lived in Johannesburg, South Africa. I lived in Monterrey, Mexico. I lived in, where did I live? I'm trying to remember all of the different places. I lived in The Hague, the Netherlands. I lived in Amman, Jordan, and I also lived in Lima, Peru. And so, going through my career and continuing to help U.S. companies, I think that seed just started to be watered. And at some point, I told my husband, I said, I've done 25 years with the government. I'd like to finally go out and see if I can be that entrepreneur that I always wanted to be. And when I left the government, I had one idea of what I wanted to do. But in 2015, there was a terrorist attack in Paris. And my husband is from the Netherlands. So we go to the Netherlands almost every year. And when we go to the Netherlands, where his family lives, they're about 5 hours from Paris. So always we go to a trip to Paris because that's kind of like a kind of a break in between the family visit. And so when they had that terrorist attack, I thought two things. One, my family could have been there because we walk those streets when we go to Paris.
Mm.
But two, I notice how most people, if you don't have a military or a police background, you don't know what to do in extreme circumstances. And so, working in a U.S. embassy around the world, we get drills, we get, security talks. Our children are given security talks. Security is always uppermost in our minds. And so something just came to me and said, you want to be an entrepreneur, why don't you create something that help people to be safe in large public places? People, so that's kind of where it was born. And I reached out to a good friend who was working for working for Dell Computers. And I said, I have this idea. This is what I want to do, but I have no idea how to even get it started. And so, living in Texas, Austin has a very great startup community. She was plugged in. So she said, let me introduce you to some people. And that's kind of how it started. And so it's been a journey. And I think I've done, one of the things that I tell people sometimes is I think I've made all the same, they always talk about when people are startups, the mistakes they made. And I'm like, I think I made every single
All of
one.
them.
Yeah, I made all of them. And, and part of it was learning, 25 years of helping established small companies go international and create and expand their business is totally different from being a startup. And so I had to, a year and a half kind of into it after starting to develop the product, getting developers, learning the journey of being an entrepreneur. Part of it was like, okay, what does that mean to be a CEO? What don't I know? Because what I started realizing is that there are a lot of things that I do know just from my previous experience. But there's a lot of things I didn't know. And I needed to step back and actually learn the ABCs of being an entrepreneur. And so started actually signing up for founders classes and stuff like that, building my network. And so I started that part on the technology side, but as I said, it's a security technology. So I started reaching out to Security Association, as is Security SIA, which is Security Industry SIA, Security Industry Association, and then became a member of Women in Security Forum. And all of those things were really important for getting me to understand the industry that I'm in and understanding their needs and their wants, as well as understanding the other side of technology. And I tell people sometimes, I said, I found it very interesting that I find myself in two male-dominated industries, technology and security. And so that has been a challenge. But I see everything as there's a reason for something. I'm very spiritual. And so a book that I read one time that really has had an impact on me is The Secret. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it. But, I read my Bible, I'm a Christian, but what I felt The Secret was kind of the commercialization of some of those principles. And so understanding and believing in yourself and believing in your mission and believing that there's a destiny, all of those things played into what Guardian Zone has become. And, getting out there and being, extremely proactive, especially in light of COVID. As I said, my company, our technology is what we really developed was a mobile app and a solution. So that basically bridges the communication gap between security law enforcement officers with the public. So if you think of yourself as being at a stadium, arena, shopping mall, a festival, I mean, it could be even church, these large churches, you're in those places and things happen. I mean, anything from a suspicious person, active shooter, medical emergency, or I just lost my car keys. How do you engage with security when you're in those large places when you don't know what to do? And a lot of times people will dial 911, and 911. We always say you always have the ability to dial 911, but a lot of times those facilities or those venues actually have security on the ground, and you just need to find them for help. And so that's how we saw our technology, is if you get into trouble and you're at a large place or a large facility, or campus, this is a way that you can reach out without, with a mobile app and contact them. They're able to send you information. Should something be happening, something that need to be conveyed to you, they are able to send that information as well. And we've been very proud of what we've done, and some of the traction that we're starting to get after. We're very proud of what's going on.
Wow. I know you can go on and on about your project.
Yeah.
So coming back to, you said you got your motivation from Secret. So I will just mention one more book, which is Secret came out of that book for the audience. It's called The Science of Getting Rich. So it was the Secret was the whole inspiration was taken from that. If you have time, then sometimes go through that book as well.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
And who's the author of that one?
Last name is Wattle, Wattle.
Okay. Look that up.
It was
Yes.
written in 1896 or something.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah.
And I because if somebody asks me that what is your most important book, I always mention Science of Getting Rich.
No.
So I treated that as a Bible for a few years of my life. Just follow by the word,
Okay,
and it's
wonderful.
workable. And so what really intrigued me is that, government job is very comforting zone, right? Once you have it and no problem.
Yes.
Coming out from there and becoming entrepreneur at an age where people say, oh, now is not the age to become an entrepreneur.
Wallace Wattles is his name.
Wallace Wattle, yeah.
Wattles, yeah.
So
Wattles.
Yeah. So share something about that, because, everybody has that little desire to become an entrepreneur, but the fears are humongous,
Yes. I can say that for sure. I think my husband thought I was a little crazy initially, because as you said, for 25 years, I had this very nice, comfortable job. I mean, if you think about even the pandemic and what we're going through and the economic crisis, if I was in the government, I got my paycheck every 2 weeks without fail. The pandemic would not have affected me in the least. As an entrepreneur, it has. And so, but I think as, going back to my story, when I said that, I've met entrepreneurs along the way, I knew that if I wanted to grow as a person and grow into something else, I'd have to leave the government. And I really loved what I do. I actually have, some of my former interns in the government and some of my former mentees. I encourage them to go into the Foreign Service and to be a U.S. diplomat, because, to provide service to our government and to U.S. businesses, it was an honor. And I really, really loved my job. But I felt at some point that I wanted to grow into something else, and I would not have been able to do that within the government. And I think if by working with entrepreneurs and working with small businesses and seeing them, it kind of gave me that, I think it gave me the push and the ability to take that step. And I'm not going to say it was very fearful. I remember when I was actually when I was telling the government that I was going to retire out of the government and leave after my 25 years, I was getting another assignment. I was going to be going to Rome, Italy. And everybody was like, congratulations, congratulations. But we finished developing our product. We were just on that cusp of, being a real company. And it was like, you have a choice to make. If you go to Rome, Italy, you're not going to be able to do anything. And so I prayed about it. for sure. I prayed about it a lot. I talked to my husband, and I felt, and I've always been one of these people that my dream has always been, or my thought has always been, that I want to be a 92-year-old woman sitting on the porch, and I want to tell all my grandkids, I lived the life that I wanted to live, that I did everything I wanted, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly, but I did it, and I have had an amazing life. And so when that choice came up to me, you know, here you are sitting with, you know, go off and you're going to get your, you know, you're going to do a great, and it's a great job. So you're going to have an amazing job in Rome, Italy. Your family's going to live there and everything is going to be paid for. Or you can step out here in the netherworld and as an entrepreneur, and you're not even sure, you know, you're just finishing developing your product. So you don't even know if you have customers, you don't know what you're doing. And, you know, you're going to take that risk. And I thought back to that thing that I always said is, if I give it up and I go to Italy, because that would have been a 4-year commitment. Will I look back one day and go, I wish I had? And I think that was the thing that drove me to finally make that, because I didn't want to have that. There may be days, you know, when the coronavirus started, believe me, there were days that I was going, maybe I should have kept that job. But the truth of the matter is, it has been very fulfilling. It's taught me a lot. I've always networked, but I'm networking it's different networking as a government, you know, doing government to government networking versus networking for your own business and your own company. And so I really feel like, I prayed about it. I feel that God has given me indications along the way that this is where I'm supposed to be. And so I'm really at peace with that decision. And I think, you know, the 25-year career I had as a Foreign Service officer and a US diplomat, I absolutely loved it. I recommend it to all, you know, young people who want to do that. But I have learned something differently. And I will tell you this, once I myself became an entrepreneur, you know, for years, what did I do as a government employee? I helped US companies export. I helped US companies. And I know that the attitude we have helping those companies. And sometimes we would think, well, if the company doesn't want to invest in this, or the company doesn't want to do this, then they're not serious about what they're doing. Once I became an entrepreneur and I understood, you know, hey, what's the return on that $300,000, $500,000? You know, am I going to get what I really want? I think I became a better officer because before I left the government, I started developing my business or my product before I left the government. And so as I started doing some of this stuff, as I was transitioning out, I think I became a better person, even for US companies, you know, my last year, because I understood something a lot differently, because now I'm in that same boat and I go, I get it. I get what's important to you. I get that, you know, it's not, hey, it's just $500. No, it's $500. What's my return on my investment for that $500? Because that $500 can be working for something else for my company. And so I think, as you know, the question, as you were saying, stepping out from government and then coming into being an entrepreneur, I really like it. I really enjoy it. There are days, as all entrepreneurs have, when I spend more days praying than working. But at the end of the journey, I'm very pleased with the decision I made, and I think I have grown as a person. The skills that I've acquired, I never would have had those skills. The knowledge that I've acquired, I wouldn't have had that. I think it has made me a better person, and so. I encourage people, and I love talking to other people who want to be an entrepreneur. I just say, look, don't make all the mistakes I made, but you know, even when you're saying that, you're going to go through it anyway. And so it's picking yourself off the ground and knowing what you want to do. And as I said, being an entrepreneur and getting into the security industry, which to me is very important. And I think it's even more important as a minority. Because in a lot of times, as we know from the Black Lives Matter, you know, sometimes there's contention between law enforcement in minority communities. But the truth of the matter is we need our law enforcement. We need them when there's a problem. Do things need to be changed? Sure, things need to be changed. There's no perfect system out there, but we need to support, I think in my own way, with coming up with this type of technology, it contributes and it helps and it supports that relationship.
So if you want to open another country, because I was thinking about India, and in India, rape is a very big problem.
Mm-hmm.
And women are at stake for that. You can't step out of the house after blood time, and etc., etc.
Yeah.
So how will you open that country? Will this be a solution for that kind of problem?
The way Guardian Zone works is actually, it's meant more for stabilized facilities and venues, right? So say for instance, if we did think broader, say for instance, maybe if they lived in an apartment building and something like that, maybe the apartment building would have this type of technology because they would really be my customer, right? The owner of that apartment building. And then all the tenants of that building would be able to have access to Guardian Zone. And if something happened, they would connect with the security of that building. It's not necessarily a personal security app for when you're out on the street and something happened and you want to push a button. There are technologies out there that can support that.
Right. So you have to deploy your app somewhere, or it's just downloadable?
It's downloadable. It's right now. It's in both stores, the Android, Apple Store and Google Store. However, the way the technology actually works is that it's actually designed for this facility or the venue. So they would be my customers. So if you download the app now, which you can, the minute you open it up, it's going to say that you're not in a Guardian Zone protected venue.
I see.
And so therefore, it really doesn't work. It won't benefit you. But if your corporate campus, your school, your church, any one of these places had the Guardian Zone solution, any one of their staff, any one of their visitors, customers would be able to download the app. And the minute they walk within the facility, within our geofence, they would then be uploaded and connected automatically to security's dashboard. So if anything happens within that facility, they can actually hit an incident button. That information goes to security. Security receives usually just your first or last name and your cell phone number, but it also will show the location you are within their facility. We use GPS and indoor mapping and IPS technology. So if you hit that button, say you're having a medical emergency and you hit that button for a medical emergency, they would get information of where you're located in their facility. And then they would have the right to be able to come and find you in that facility and render service.
So do you have competitor apps also, or you have an edge on
say that
competitor
again?
apps? Do you have a competition in this business, or you have an edge on them?
There is competition out there. There are some, and that's one of the things that we're looking at. There's some ways that our technology is a little different from theirs. And one of the things that we do is our app is agnostic. So the facility themselves buys our solution, but what we tried to change was that you don't have to download an app. So like, for instance, if your university had Guardian Zone and another university had Guardian Zone, the students don't have to download multiple apps because I visit that university because my friend goes to that university. I go to parties at that university. But that one app would allow me, once I walked into that school's geofence, to be able to upload to security and for them to be able to engage with me.
I see. And how many employees you have to hire to run the business?
Right now, there's only 2 of us full time. And we hope to grow as our company grows. And my thing is, we want to scale. We are for enterprise companies. We want to be at corporate campuses. We want to, the truth of the matter is anywhere people go is a great place. We're focusing now mostly on more like your stadiums, your arenas, because a lot of those things are trying to come back. But as I said, school, churches, other types of facilities or industry is also would be great. Guardians would be a great technology for that. I think it's all about connecting. And I think what I've seen over the course of time of me, even from the moment I started this to even now, I think people are more interested in, people want to be engaged, back in the day, if something was wrong or something was happening, you called 911 or you called somebody and you kind of wait for somebody to come rescue you. I think those days are kind of gone. And I think that a lot of people, even women, as you said, if I'm on the playground and say, for instance, I'm in a neighborhood and my neighborhood has Guardian Zone. And now I'm on the playground and I see something, or I see a man hanging around or somebody suspicious, I can send a message if there's a security force that enforces that neighborhood. It's all those different things that, Guardian Zone can do.
Perfect. And what are your roles in now? You just do marketing, sales, or
Well, no, I'm the CEO. So it was, this was my brainchild.
right?
And so I do marketing. There's two of us, as I said, full time. So one person is doing kind of checking up the technology with the development team and doing the financial side. And then I kind of have everything else, the business development, the marketing. But I think as an entrepreneur, especially starting out, you realize you are it. You do all the roles, and so there are certain roles that I had experience, and I had talent, and I could do it. And there's stuff that I've had to learn, and I've had to get self-help books and technology for dummies or whatever it is to learn to be a good CEO for this company. And it's been, like I said, it's a journey. And I think when I started out, I didn't realize how the journey was going to be. And I think in some ways, I think God didn't show me that, because, if you go and like, okay, it's going to take 4 to 5 years to really get your business off the ground, you may go, oh, 4 to 5 years. But when I started out, I thought, oh, within a year, we should be doing some stuff. But I mean, it took us a year to develop the product. I mean, so you learn, but as I started on the journey, I started learning more. And as I started learning more and networking and being a part of different women organizations and meeting some incredible women in both industries, in security as well as technology. And a lot of them have been very supportive of me. And I think that's one of the things, the sisterhood, right, that women have. And I think that's beautiful. And I think for women who want to be an entrepreneur, I think perseverance is one of those things that I'm learning. Perseverance and patience, but believing in yourself. If you really have that burning desire to be an entrepreneur, you owe it to yourself to try.
How did you break the threshold, a woman business owner in this industry? As a woman business owner, did clients kind of like doubt that you were the CEO?
Oh, yes, many times. Sometimes I think especially initially when I started, I don't think I was, because as I said, when I first started my company I still was in the government for my final year, and I had to be careful of conflict of interest. So I wasn't as vocal about what my role was. I wasn't as vocal of what, I'd be talking about Guardian Zone, but I was kind of almost downplaying the company, which, I realize now kind of made everything go a little bit longer. But as you said, especially for security, I would go to, I'm a member of 2 security associations, and I'd go to meetings or I'd go to events, and they're like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm the CEO. And, so it has been, and the truth of the matter is I'm the only woman and African-American in this small space that I'm in. And so a lot of times you are almost having to, I was telling my daughter the other day, I said, Martin Luther King used to say we have to be twice as good to get anywhere. And I said, I feel that way as a woman. I still have to be twice as good to get anywhere and for people to take me seriously. But I have had some heroes, not just Sheroes, but I've had some heroes in the industry who stepped up and supported me and given me advice. So I want to also, say that there are men out there who support you. My husband has been incredibly supportive. And so when I came up with this idea, as I was mentioning earlier, I had an onward assignment for safety and, for, all the things that we've always had. And then here I was going, no, I'd like to step out into this black hole with the family and try being an entrepreneur. And he actually supported me. It wasn't an argument. It wasn't a convincing. He believed in me. And I think that has been incredibly helpful through this journey, because even some days when I'm doubting myself, he's that voice that goes, no, I really think you can do it.
So that is part of our next step program, which we want to start, men behind the women,
Yeah. Yes,
because
definitely.
that's also important now. They need to be highlighted.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about what does US Chamber of Commerce does for small businesses, what kind of help they can take, and how small the business should be to
Okay.
take help.
Well, it's not the Chamber of Commerce, because there's a difference. We're the U.S. Department of Commerce. So the U.S. Department of Commerce is part of the it's a federal government. But we were part of the International Trade Administration, right, in Washington, D.C. And so we have a thing called an Export Assistance Center. And actually there's one in almost every state, and sometimes multiple in every state. And what our role was to help small and medium-sized companies export their products overseas. You probably can go to export.gov, which is their website, and be able to find a local office near you. And what's beautiful about that, and when I talk to people who are interested in it, I said, their job is to help you get export ready, right? If you're a company that is, you've been selling for a few years, you have traction within your own industry, you have a product or service to sell, you can actually go to the U.S. Department of Commerce and they will work with you and they will look at whatever you're building, consumer good, technology, no matter what it is, and they'll go, okay, and they'll help you find those international markets. They may say, okay, like for instance, I remember when I still worked for them, somebody who was selling cattle, like cattle, what countries in the world want to sell cattle? Well, we'll buy cattle. Well, you got Australia who wants to buy US cattle, and you have England who wants to buy US cattle. There are other countries out there who are looking to buy US cattle. So no matter what your product is or your service is, there might be a market out there for it. And so going to them, and part of their job is to sit down with you, find out how committed you are to it, because it's just like being a journey to be an entrepreneur. It's a journey to really become, to do international. It's not for the faint-hearted, but it can be done. And the beauty of it is that the US government does give a lot of support. We have offices that are in the US, and we have offices that are in every embassy and consulate around the world. And so what happens is here you are in Texas, or I'm in Texas, and I say, this is my company and I want to export whatever widget it is. The local office will say, okay, well, looking at, some data of, other companies that are exporting to those markets, we hear the top 20 markets for that type of product around the world. And then you sit down with the trade specialist that's here in the US, and they go, okay, well, if you go to these two top markets, that's where everybody's going, it's saturated, but here, here's some markets that are smaller. You're a small company, this might be a better fit. And then what they do is they reach out to our offices overseas and work with them to bridge it. And then they actually have products and services within the Department of Commerce that small and medium-sized companies can actually buy to get. So what we call it, our flagship product during that time was called a gold key. And basically what it was is that they actually would set up one-on-one meetings for companies that have been vetted, that are potential buyers for your products overseas. And then you literally go to that country, but the US government is supporting you. They will, they'll set you up with a hotel, they'll set you up with a translator if you need it. All of those services are there. And all you have to do as that entrepreneur or that small company is to go there and actually be able to sell your product. And that's the beauty of it. But a lot of people don't know that those services are out there. And so that was one of the things that we did.
Of course, very important. And is there any quota or something for women-owned businesses in that?
I know that I did leave 2 years ago, but they've always looked, they were looking at women-owned businesses. There is minority-owned businesses, and then also rural businesses. So businesses that are classified in rural areas that don't necessarily always have access. They actually do try to, some of the prices that they discounted for those types of things. But since I've been gone for a couple of years, I would definitely talk to one of the trade specialists at the local office to find out how things are now.
Perfect. Nancy, you have any question?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I visit Dallas in the springtime. I was wondering how far that is from you.
I live less than 30 minutes from Dallas. I live literally in between Dallas and Fort Worth.
So I'm looking
forward.
I'm looking forward to branch out in the Dallas area, our Global Women Power, to help women, women that are stressed with skills training and things of that sort. Okay. So if it's of any interest to you, you can let me know.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I'd love to have a conversation about it and what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to do. And if there's something I can do to support you, yeah, I would love to.
Sure thing. And what are your goals with your business? Now that you're established, do you want to spread out to other countries?
That's my goal, because that's my background, right? So as I said, with COVID, things, we were hit a little hard with COVID, but we're still going strong. So my goal is to get a little bit more traction here in the United States. Because one of the things I learned when I was doing my job for the government is you don't want to come overseas, because one of the first questions that person will ask you is, well, what are you doing in the United States? They don't want to be the guinea pig for your product. So so what I want to do is, yes, once we are well established and have lots of traction here in the United States, my goal is to carry my technology internationally. And I've maintained my relationships with all my former colleagues because that is my goal.
Do you ever have time for hobbies outside of your profession?
I love to read. I love to read. I love, what else do I do? I love horror movies. What else do I love? Traveling, of course. Traveling is one of our biggest hobbies. We love, in my family, we love politics. So we love to just debate topics and things like that. I have a daughter that's at NYU, and then I have a son that's in 8th grade. And my daughter is, she was we call it a foreign service kid. So she lived all of her life overseas until high school. And so she is studying global liberal studies at NYU, rights development and conflict. So I'm really proud of her. So.
Wow.
And how about kitchen?
Ma'am?
Kitchen, how about kitchen?
Cooking.
Oh, cooking? Oh, for me? Cooking has been one of my challenges. I like to eat, but not necessarily cook, but I do have some good friends. I'm always available for a meal. My husband actually does the majority of the cooking in our home.
Well, if you run out of barbecue sauce, you take 50% Coca-Cola, 50% ketchup, mix it together. It makes an excellent barbecue sauce. It may not be healthy because Coca-Cola's got like 9 tablespoons of sugar in it, but it works.
No, I can tell you, barbecue here in Texas is amazing. Right. And so, that is not one of the things that you will miss. And we like just trying different barbecue restaurants because it's amazing, especially the mom and pop barbecue places, because then you get like really authentic barbecue and, family recipes and things like that. So that's really nice.
So as a part of our business networking, send your brochure to us, your catalog or whatever you have. So I
Okay.
will connect you with other agencies, those who are, in IT services and they are installing in big apartments and
Okay.
things like that. And then I can introduce you to them.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
that is how we help.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. And we will stay connected and we'll learn
Okay.
more from you over and over.
Okay.
All the
Well,
best to you.
thank you, wonderful, and thank you very much. And please, I'd like to tell your audience to please go to our website, guardianzone.com, to learn a little bit more about who we are and what we do.
Definitely. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Wonderful.
Cheryl. You did
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.